The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Host Miranda. Welcome to Whispers from the Other Side. We are coming to you live from TV, Channel 8 in Quincy, Massachusetts. Our loved ones are gone but not forgotten, and just a thought away. And I have some things I want to share with you guys tonight at home, making the connection with people that have crossed away, which is what I'm going to kind of base it on, but also I'm going to share some stories that I've had when spirits just show up. Sometimes when our loved ones pass away, especially if it's what we call a fresh death, people want to hear from their families so bad, but they're just not ready to come through yet, because you guys got to remember, when you cross over, you shred from your physical body to your spiritual body. So people that are on the other side in heaven, they could be getting adjusted to their new environment, and that's why they don't come through sometimes. I had an experience not too long ago where somebody wanted to hear from their loved one, and they did come through. It was just so much information, like I've said to you guys before, but at the same time, they can be learning and growing on the other side and getting used to that new environment, like I just said, where sometimes spirits our deceased loved ones can come in really, really fast, or sometimes it could take like 50 years. Because I do have something special that I want to share with you. And this was a one going to the past. One time I can remember I was doing a reading for somebody, and the deceased loved one just came through, and they didn't understand who it was at all, which was okay. But then she got to thinking about it, and she couldn't understand why the person came through so fast when they had recently just died. It just depends on the energy of our deceased loved ones that is coming through from the other side in heaven, that it just depends on how strong that energy is. And the person could understand everything, but she was just so surprised when the person came through. She actually went to the Reverend after and said, why did they come through so fast? Because it just depends on how quick they get used to their adjustment, or you want to hear from your loved ones so bad that it just takes them time to come through. And I wanted to explain that to you, but she came over and thanked me and all that stuff, and I said, I thanked her, of course, for sharing her loved ones with me, and I said, but that's just how they are. Sometimes it'll be so fast. Then the other thing too, with a reading that I just did for somebody, a deceased loved one can be on the other side for like 50 years. But the person went to other mediums. But sometimes I feel, with the experience I've had as a medium, they wait till the right person comes, right medium they can go to, that, you know, they're like them. The medium's gone through some stuff that they went through in life, so they can relate to them. And the energy, because what it was is this person that came through for somebody was over there for like 50 years. And they could not believe that the person all of a sudden came through after 50 years. And I said, it just depends on, you know, our deceased loved one that's on the other side. But you can remember, they go through stuff, they go through transitions over there with their adjustment to their new place and their new environment on the other side in heaven. Plus they're getting caught up with your loved ones on the other side too, which is, you know, kind of cool. And I wanted to share that with you. Another time I can remember just recently, the person came in like gangbusters. They came in really, really fast. And it just depends on the energy. I believe too sometimes if you have a weaker energy, you might want to jack it up a little. That way you can be a little bit stronger with your energy too when you come through to the right medium. But it just depends on the medium. And sometimes mediums don't make the connection too, and that's all right too, because it just depends. I used to tell my daughter, everything is divine timing in life. And over on the other side, it could be divine timing because they're just not ready to come through yet. And I know sometimes people really, really want to hear from their loved ones, you know, and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, I said, you know, it's just everything is divine timing. Here's a fun story I want to share. Around Claire Sunseens medium. This was a really fun experience I had actually. Because, you know, with me, you just never know who's going to show up from the other side and stuff like that. And I'm sure you guys, if you've had some experiences, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I was at a friend's house, my late friend actually, and he said to me, Karen, so who's around me? And I said, oh, all right. You want to know who's around you? And I said, all right. I was getting his name, Mike, and the person was saying his last name. But I said, but Mike, he has a skateboard, and he has, you know, really bushy hair, and I'm feeling, you know, African American. I'm hoping he's the right terminology for you guys at home. And he said, I knew somebody, but I said, I feel like he's right outside your window. He said, but that makes sense. And I said, but he's on a skateboard, and he was going back and forth saying his last name, you know, and stuff like that, so he could take all the information. It was a fun-loving energy, actually. He said, but he didn't come through before. And I said, that's okay. Likes like likes, and likes like likes on this side. So I said, he's all around you. And I can remember another time, this is really fun. And I went to somebody's house in Brockton. And there was 12 mediums in the room. And I tell you, when you get a bunch of mediums like that together, it can be very interesting and stuff like that. And one of the ladies I knew from, you know, church and everything, I want Karen. I said, okay. And we got talking, and I was doing a reading for her. And as I was doing the reading, all of a sudden I saw this flash of light outside of my head. But then all the information she could take and understand was coming through to her. And I said, okay. And it was really wonderful because I love my gifts, actually, and I love sharing with you guys at home all of, you know, my knowledge at the best of my knowledge, too. And she was really happy that her friend came through. And I said, well, he's just extending the message to you. And that was one way. And after we were all done, of course, we all went to the table. And all the mediums got talking about how they had their gifts. One had the gift to see, one had the gift to feel. But one medium spoke up, and they said, does anybody really see in the room? And I was just like really surprised and stuff like that. All of a sudden, all at once, I had 12 eyes looking at me. And I'm like, why is everybody looking at me? Because they knew I really did see. It's just interpretation with the other side too, which can be really, really interesting. So with interpretation, what I might be seeing too, just could be interpreting how your loved ones are interpreting stuff to be like a piece of jewelry. They'll say jewelry and things like that. So that's why I say it that way. And sometimes they'll show me the piece of jewelry and the items that they own, or sometimes they won't. It just depends on what they want to do. But to get back to the fun thing I was doing at the friend's house, it was just, you know, really funny about how they all looked at me. And I said, all right, I do. And we, you know, I thanked her for letting us come and, you know, sharing my gifts. And we all shared our gifts because we all got readings, which was really, really nice. The other thing is with that, it was really nice because I like to get readings too. Not all the time. I think the last reading I had was in 2015 or something like that, but it's been a really long time. And I said to myself, but that's okay, because, you know, my family will wait till they're right time is for me? Because somebody did say, Karen, do you hear from your loved ones? I said, no, I don't hear from my loved ones. They thought that was really, and they just asked me this question recently, and they said, are you sure you don't hear from anybody? I said, no, because the other night I was in my living room, and watching TV in my living room, and all of a sudden, I don't like to hear deceased loved ones. I'm a feeling and seeing person, but I had no choice. It was a child, and all they said was, Mommy. They said, Mommy to me, and I had to pay attention because I heard it out of my head. And what the child was trying to do was to let her mom know that I'm fine, that she was fine on the other side, and she's with family over there. So if anybody can understand a little girl, I know I get a lot of children a lot because, you know, it's the energy thing again, like I was saying a little while ago, with everybody that comes through to me. And I said, okay, but as soon as I find out who you're looking for, I will deliver the message to your family from you. And then with that, the child disappeared. I didn't hear the child's voice anymore. And I said to myself, that reminds me of the times I heard from my uncles with the hearing part of it. And one time it was just like the hearing part of it. I heard my uncle call my name in the middle of the night, which was about 3 o'clock in the morning, because I never know who's going to show up or when they're going to show up and what they're going to tell me, and being colorful with the words sometimes. But all of a sudden I heard Karen, and I said, okay, Uncle Larry, if that's you, can you go to Auntie Eleanor? And sure enough, I said, you know, I gave a couple of days, and I said, I'm going to call my aunt up to see if she had any visitors. And as soon as I called her, she said, Karen, I got something to tell you. I said, what, Auntie? She's now crossed over to the other side in heaven, too. I heard Uncle Larry the other night. I said, what did he say? He said, just my name. And she said, but I absorbed it, didn't question, but I thought of you. But I'm just a messenger for her. And I was so glad because she really missed her husband. The year before that, with the clairsentience part of it, it was around Easter time. And all of a sudden, I heard in my head, this was in my head experience, bring her out some lilies. I want you to bring her some Easter lilies. I said, okay, I'm in Quincy, and they lived in Hyde Park at the time. So I said, all right, I will bring you get some lilies. So I said to my late ex-husband, we have to go to the store. I have to get some Easter lilies. He looked at me. I said, but it's for Auntie. I said, okay. So when he did that, we went to the store, and I got the lilies and stuff like that. And, Chuck took me to where she lived. And after the door, she couldn't believe it. She said, Karen, nobody knew, but that was my favorite flower. And I said, I'm just delivering the message from you that Uncle Larry wanted you to have these lilies and stuff like that. So she was very thankful. I said, Happy Easter and God bless. And, she was very appreciative of that. And another time I can remember, it was near Mother's Day, and my late friend had cancer, and she died of a tumor in her brain. Cancer can be very awful, as you guys know at home. And she died when she was 30 years old. And all of a sudden I was in my kitchen, and I was feeling, Karen, call my mother to wish her a happy Mother's Day. And she was only over there, a couple of months and everything like that. And I said, okay, I will call your mom for you and let her know. I just don't know how open she was to spirit communication, because as you guys know at home, not everybody's open to it. And so I said, all right, so I will call your mother and let her know. I called, my friend's mom, and she said, hello. I said, listen, I gotta give you this. Jeannie's wanting to wish you a happy Mother's Day. She goes, oh my goodness, Karen. I was just thinking about her and wondering if she was okay on the other side. I said, most definitely, but she wanted to wish you a happy Mother's Day from the other side. So I just had to let her know about that. Another time I can remember was I was in the car with my husband, and all of a sudden I said, "You got to stop for a second, because I do feel somebody around me." But I said, "Not right now. We're going home, so you got to wait until I get home." So they backed off, and stuff like that. And when it's the right person and the right time, they'll come through. Sometimes when you want to hear from your loved ones so much, I believe you want to hear from them so much that sometimes it just could be just too soon. Like I said earlier, especially if it's like a fresh death, sometimes, it'll just take a while for them to come through, but they will come through eventually. I just had to share that with you guys at home. One time I can remember being at a church service, and they had me all over the place. And then finally somebody lifted up my hand. "I know who it is coming through for you," because what had happened was I was taking on their personalities, because when Spirit starts working with me, you guys at home might see me change. My personality will change all of a sudden. And that's just when Spirit's really working with me, getting the message across to the person that's alive and stuff like that. So, that's just their way. We all work differently. We all communicate with different ways to communicate with loved ones. That's why I try to share my stories with you guys at home too, because there is classes you can go to a spiritualist church, or even some mediums go to New Age shops and teach, which is totally wonderful, because you do get curious, and they'll teach you how to control your gifts, of whatever it is you have, and stuff like that, with whether it's seeing, hearing, or feeling. And even smelling is another way of how they communicate, and which is totally wonderful, because I love when they do that, especially like with colognes or perfumes, and flowers too especially. And that's really nice to know. The other thing I want to let you guys know about when we're getting ready to cross over, sometimes when a person gets ready to transition from this life to the next life, we sometimes choose to die by ourselves. And I want to share a story with you, because when my friend Jeannie that I was talking about a couple of minutes ago, I did not get to say goodbye to her, and I was so upset that I wasn't there. But my landlord at the time, this was going back a while, he said, "Come upstairs, I want to talk to you for a second." And I said, "All right." So he said to me, "Were you there for her when she was sick?" And I said, "Yes, I was." So he said to me, "That's okay if I don't get to go to the services." Just I'm sharing this with you guys at home, because if you can't make to a service, they understand. And it could be just a little simple thing like, "Hello, how are you doing?" He said, "If you were there, you have nothing to feel guilty about by not being there when she passed away." And I said I felt awful, because she was only 30 years old when she passed away. And I said, okay, and I thanked my landlord, because it was like I got a healing too with the person that was, with all my sadness and grief that I was feeling, because I'm human too, and people have to remember that. I'm human like you guys at home, but I couldn't stress it enough with everybody at home, that it's okay if you're not there. It's okay if you don't say goodbye, because you feel the burden of not being there. I can share an experience with my ex-late father-in-law, who had dementia. And I know I talked about this before, but people do still ask me, so I'm sharing the story again with you guys. He had dementia in the end, and he went through all the stages of dementia. And when we went to visit him, the only way he could communicate with me was through his eyes. One by one, everybody left the room. And even my late ex-nephew, he left the room too, and all of a sudden I was there with Papa. So I was talking to him anyways, like he was still here, which is wonderful that you can do that too, just let you know that. Just talk to your loved ones if they're in a coma or something, because even though they're not physically there, that they're spiritually looking down from the other side. This is what I'm getting at with this. But I just wanted to share with you that when he couldn't talk or speak, I was noticing his eyes blinking at me. And I said, okay, Papa, if you're there, if you could kindly let me know that you're there, can you give me some kind of a signal with your eyes? So if the answer is no, yes, blink once. If the answer is no, blink twice with your eyes. And when he was doing that, he all of a sudden, he started blinking like, you know, a lot with me when he was answering. So I said, I have a question. Is somebody not going to make it to see you and say goodbye? He blinked his eyes twice. And when my late ex-husband came home from work, he said, Papa passed away. I said, I felt so bad, because I was really close to Pop. And what happened was, he passed away. I said, I have a strange question to ask you. He said, what's that? Because he knew about my gifts and everything. Did somebody not make it to the room? And he said, yeah, what a strange question to ask. He said, everybody but one person made it to the room on time, and didn't make it on time. And what it was is, it was his other brother that didn't make it, but he missed. And it was funny because he missed it by him passing away by 2 minutes. And it was very interesting, because Papa would blink with his 2 eyes. And I had to go to the Reverend for some answers too, because I don't have all the answers. It's like you guys want to know certain things at home. I'm just a vessel in between the living and the people that passed away to heaven. And I'm human, like I said. I don't have all the answers either. But I did want to share that with you. I lost somebody last year and stuff like that. And they were in like a comatose state. And no, it was in 2023. And they were in a comatose-like state. And they couldn't communicate with me. But what I did was every day I would call the hospital up at a certain time. I would say to the nurse, can you do me a favor? She said, what? Can you put the phone up to his ears? And she said to me, that's really odd. I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him. And she said, okay. And all of a sudden, she said to me, Karen, when you started talking to him, the body language he was starting to express with his body, because he could not speak anymore. And he was expressing. And he said, you're asking him questions about sports and everything. And I just talked to him like he was here. You know what I'm saying? So, which is nice. You guys can do that at home too, when a loved one's getting ready to pass away. And I'll talk to you about that in a couple of minutes. But it was really nice, because she said I was asking him all kinds of questions. And he could relate to that with the body language. So a couple of days went by, and I know hospitals get really busy, but I did call the hospital back, and I just had a gut feeling that something was up. And I called the hospital and said, should we come to the hospital? He said, you might want to come now. We can only keep him alive for a certain amount of time and everything like that. I said, okay. We all got to the hospital. And the doctor said, it's not good. Just to let you know, be prepared and everything. I said, no, I was glad, because what he decided to do was wait till we were all there. And that can happen too. I'll get to that in a second. But that can happen. And we all went into the room, and I felt bad for my kids, because it was kind of on Father's Day too, so it was kind of like they were getting a double-edged sword. But they were so, I'm very proud of my 2 guys, because they were so strong with their strength and everything like that. I was telling him, I took his hand, I asked Michelle, do you want to take your dad's hand? She said no. And the other person in the room, his son, didn't want to take his hand, so I said, okay. I took his hand and I said to him, the kids are fine. They're safe. They have a roof over their head and they're doing terrific. And if you want to go and meet with Johnny and Papa and, you know, your other family and your mom, it's okay to go. It's okay. You fought the fight for as long as you could. Because I did tell him that it's okay if you're gonna fight the fight, you're gonna have the biggest fight of your life to, you know, get back. And I knew, you know, it was probably impossible, but just to have him stay strong. I said, but if you want to go home and the kids are safe and it's okay for you to go. It's okay. So I'm getting a little choked up, but it's okay. And so I took his hand and I said, we're fine and stuff like that. And with that, he took his last breath and he went to sleep. And I said, what a wonderful way to pass away. But that's how he chose to pass away, because he hung on, because the hospital said, we don't even know if he can last till you get here. And I said, okay, I thanked the hospital so much. But the most interesting thing that happened was black doesn't always mean a bad thing, because I had to call somebody I knew who was a very good medium. And I said to her, I had something interesting happen to me. She said, what's that, Karen? I saw black, but I saw brown, and with the black, and then it turned brown. She said, you know what's happening is he's letting go of the physical to go and cross over to the spiritual side of, you know, and meet up with his, you know, I felt like he was meeting up with his family. And I said, that's so wonderful that he was doing that, because it made me feel good. But, you know, I thanked her for letting me know. So your body does shed from the physical world to the spiritual world. And that's when you begin your journey in the afterlife. The other thing I thought that was so wonderful, what I wanted to share with you guys too, if you're with somebody and they are in that comatose state, just share stuff that you did with them, you know, and things that you know, that they'll remember, and they are listening in. It just might not be the way you want, but that's okay. Share stories and all the happy, fun things, because they are listening in, just to let you know that. The other thing I wanted to share was, this is a fun story that I'd like to share. I haven't shared it in a while, but it was an Our Lady Good Counsel choir. It was here in Quincy. I used to sing in the choir. And it was when I first started developing and everything. And I was given messages to people in the choir, you know, and stuff like that. And they said, that's all well and good, Karen, but the person's no longer here and they have crossed over to the other side. So I said, oh, okay. But I just want to let you know that they're doing good. And they were happy to get the reading and things like that. So I was happy to deliver the messages with everybody. I'm going to start a drawing while I'm still talking to you guys at home. And the lines are now open, so feel free to call. If you have any questions or you're just tuning in, that's okay too. But I'm just happy to share some knowledge with you guys with what's going on and everything like that. There are so many different ways you can communicate with people, but that's why if you want to learn more, there are, you know, I know one very good teacher actually, she's really good, and stuff like that, that you can go to and talk to and, you know, to learn, because I get, you know, still, like, sometimes when something goes on with me, I call, you know, this person up that I know, and I said, this is going on with me, can you explain this to me? And she said, yeah, this is what's happening. And I said, I tried to fluff the gift off. I tried for 6 long years to fluff the gift off with spirit communication. This is what I'm talking about tonight, is the spirit communication. And she said, what's going on? I go, I have no clue. And I said, but this is happening, and can you help me with that? And she said, yeah. She said, Dad, you know you were born with the gift. Don't fight it off anymore. So it took me like 6 years when I tried to fight it off, because there was stuff going on, but they were still coming in anyways, so I said, okay, I gotta get back. I gotta get back to doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because I'm what they call a natural born medium, where I don't have to try to communicate with people, they just come in anyways. So, but I feel very blessed and stuff like that. So it was, you know, wonderful. And I thanked her, because I always call her up to, you know, inquiring minds want to know and stuff like that. Or what's going on with me? What's up with me? Why is this happening? Like the who, what, where, when, why questions that, you know, you have. The thing I actually love is roses are very special to me. So when you hear me talk about flowers, I said to myself, because I see flowers out of my head with the clairvoyant part of my gifts, and they usually mean birthday, celebration, and stuff like that, or even a funeral or somebody that's going to pass away. That's what the black ones are to me. Is when I don't very rarely see the black roses, but that's what they do with me, and sometimes it's really too funny. This is one of my favorite stories I like to share with everybody at home, with birthdays and celebrations. One time I can remember when my father-in-law passed away, and we were in the graveyard, and I was talking to my daughter, and she said, "Ma, but tomorrow is your birthday." And I said, "Oh no," and Papa died, you know, and I said, "That's okay. The story of my life, it just goes with the territory," because my late sister died before my birthday, like on the 14th of 2003, and I said, that sounds about right for me, and stuff like that. And I want to share with the smells again too with everybody, because sometimes you guys forget at home, you know, with different things. So that's why I'm kind of like doing a refresher with you guys too as well, with the flowers and everything. And if you hear somebody, even if it's in your head and they're trying to get a message across, there's a way you can do it. What I usually do if somebody's not open, and I love skeptics. I love skeptics, like I said to you in my last show, so I'm not going to get into that tonight. But it's wonderful because there's a way to do it and bring it up in conversation. With, you know, with a reading you have to give somebody, and it's like, okay, so I'm getting this, you know, for you. I was wondering, do you remember the time, and that's how you can bring it up, that we used to do this with so-and-so, and they said, yes. I said, oh my goodness, that is so wonderful. And I said to them, just, you know, they're very happy with that. And, you know, that's how you can do it. Just get into conversation, like bring up an event or a thing you did with your deceased loved one that has crossed over, and then get the conversation going if, you know, if they want to talk about it. But, you know, like I always say too, we all have our free wills, so I had to share that with you too. One time I can remember too, with the birthday thing, when Papa died, my friend at the time called me, and she said, but Karen, at least he didn't pass away on your birthday. I said, Sandy, it can't get any better than this. The birthday's tomorrow. But my family made sure I had a nice birthday anyways. But to me, death, when it's our time, is a celebration of life. And just to celebrate the person that's alive. Like my dad's gonna be gone. He died a couple of years ago. And I said to myself, I'm gonna tell Michelle, we're gonna go out and celebrate. And we do, we go out and celebrate what they like to do, like going out to their favorite restaurant, or having a piece of their favorite dessert that they liked. I said, that's what we're doing this year anyways, because Pa would appreciate that. You know, if we're not at the graveyard, that's okay, and stuff like that. Everybody has their old way of doing, you know, your loved ones' birthdays if they're not here anymore. And that's just one thing I did want to share, which is really cool, because I see birthday cakes in my head, and when I see stuff, that's just their way. Or like roses, like I said a little while ago, that's just, it's just these loved ones at home letting me know, you know, it's their birthdays or celebrations coming up, which is really, really nice. One time I can remember years ago, and this is something I like to share with smells, and I was at somebody's funeral, and we went up to pay our respects, because you know how you go to the funeral parlor, all if they'll cremate, whatever they do if you're getting cremated, or the services that you guys do at home. We went to the thing, and me being me, I said, I got to be as normal as possible, whatever normal is these days. I don't know. You know how, you guys know how it is out there today. So I said, all right, I got to be as normal as it possibly can be today, and stuff like that. So I went up to the casket, and when I was up there praying, I said to myself, oh, good, a nice normal funeral, yay. You guys know me by now, so I was just like happy about that. But then all of a sudden, I looked up, and all of a sudden this gold mist formed above the casket, and I'm like, all right. I looked around to see if anybody was looking to see what I was experiencing, because they weren't, so that was actually made me feel really good. And I said to them, thank you for sharing that with me, and I appreciate that you will let me know you were there transitioning from this life to the afterlife. You know what I'm saying? Letting go of energies, like I said earlier. And it's just really nice to know, that happened. But when we went to the church part of the service, when the music started, it was like all of a sudden I was sitting down praying. All of a sudden the altar started lighting up with all this energy and stuff. And when I see that, that's when messages start coming in too. When I see the colors with all of that, and somebody said, isn't that the best way? I go, yeah, but everything would make sense. And you know how music is, and especially in a church, when the music starts and the energy gets stronger. If you're a medium or if you're open to this, that can happen too with you, just to let you know that as well. And what happened with the music was, when it got started, things were forming on top of the altar. I said, I need to be as normal as possible, whatever normal is, anyways, in my world. And all of a sudden I said, okay. And all of a sudden I started smelling roses. And I'm like sitting there going, oh boy. And I was sitting there saying, this is not normal. This is just not normal. And I said to myself, all right, I'm smelling roses, seeing stuff up in the altar, and as long as it's from a good place, because I always say, as long as it's from the white light. I'll explain that in a minute. I said that to me, but there was somebody I could ask afterwards, because I knew she was open. I said, I got to ask you something. And she said, what, to me? And I said, you're open to all this stuff, because we would share stuff back and forth once in a great blue moon. And she said, what? I said, did you smell the flowers? She said, Karen, I'm so glad that you experienced that, because I was experiencing it too, and it made me feel so good, because it's nice when people do share their experiences with me, so that way, I'm sure you guys, you're not the only ones going through this stuff, and you're not alone like it was back in 2002 when I started accepting my gifts, but didn't fully accept them. It's more open now, so you guys are really, really lucky. And you're not alone, and I was so happy. I said, I am so thankful for you sharing that with me. It was that you weren't alone and stuff like that. And one time I can remember with the clairsentient part of it, one time going to a campground that I went to, and I like going out to the water at night, because I make sure I'm not alone when I do that. And all of a sudden I went out to the deck, and all of a sudden I felt like somebody was drowned, and like a drowning in the water over by the rope part of where the rope, guys know, and if you see the ropes, by the way, and it says don't go past it, don't go past it. There's a reason why it's there, but you guys know, but people do forget when you're out having fun. And I said, yeah. And I said to my cousin, I said, I gotta ask you something, because he came down, and my daughter and I were at the deck and stuff like that. I'm feeling a man over by the ropes, and I'm feeling my pressure on my heart, and that he drowned. he said, but Karen, he did drown. He had an unexpected massive heart attack and passed away. I said, oh, thank you so much for telling me, because I appreciated that. And I said, thank you very much. And thanked him a lot. And so when that happened, when, you know, because, you know, when you're out in nature like that, the energies are really, really strong. And you guys might experience that with energies, and especially when holidays come around and celebrations like graduation coming up, you might feel somebody that's around, or you might even see them, and they have a message for somebody, and just, you know when to do it. The white light, I talked about that a little while ago. When I do before I do spirit readings, because you're dealing with all different kinds of energies on all different levels, and I always make sure that nothing but the highest and best come through, but I surround myself with white light of protection. It's a protection color. And also with the angels, because, you know, I believe in angels and stuff like that, so I ask them to protect me extra and things like that. The white light is a protection color. Believe it or not, the reason why you guys see me at home with black on is because a long time ago, I had a friend that was a medium, very good, and she would get names a lot. And she said, you know, I'm Italian, and Dad, I know my heritage is right. And I said, what? She said, you know, black's a protection color in Sicily. I go, no. She said, that's so people that passed away won't go through you. I said, okay. And I thought that was very interesting that she told me that, because sometimes like, I see them transfiguration, which I shared before with you guys. And I said to myself, that's a good thing to know. So that's why I wear all black. And when my cousin passed away back in 2016, I think, he was over there a while. I went to his funeral with a friend, and my mom and dad, my late mom and dad came too, and I was so glad. My mother looked at me, she said, you're all in black. Everybody else, that's old school. I said, well, they can be new school. I'm going to be old school, because I know what the black is for. And my friend that was with me knew exactly why I wore the black. But that's just, it's not always negative and stuff like that, just to let you guys know that. And I said to myself, that's why I wear black, and I have my gloves, because my gloves are my special thing that I like to do, and of course they're black too. But those are just some of the things I wanted to touch base with you guys tonight. And also too, I know I get a lot of babies and things like that when I do a reading for somebody. I know that miscarriages are common. So, you know, that's what I want to do a reading for you. When I say a miscarriage, that's how you lost the baby, just to let you guys know that. I'm not going to stick with that for too long, but I had to share that little piece with you. But I just, you know, said to myself, all right. Another time I can remember, you know, just, it's not always easy just to be the person in between the veils. And it's wonderful, because I live across the street at the ocean in Plymouth, and the ocean gets very active with energies, and I see a lot of colors too. And a couple times it's just been this abundance of green. Green means healing, by the way, too. If you ever see green, or it could be an angel nearby, or a deceased loved one, I would see purple, you know, and stuff like that. Just really cool how they do that with me. And I said, thank you for letting me know you're around, and things like that. But I just wanted to fill you in on when people get ready to pass away, it's okay if you're not there, and stuff like that. You were there for them when they were alive the best you could be, and that's okay, you know, to do that. I'm going to get going with the drawing. I do have a woman that's around me. She had big, big eyes. And those are just little things I like to share with the knowledge that I get, so you guys can know at home. And when I do a reading for you guys too, I don't get into the negative stuff either, just to let you know that. That's why with me being a clear sentience medium, that they share their memories with me of what they did with you at home. And it's not about the I, me part of it. I'm just filling you in. So if you guys are experiencing things with the afterlife, and if you see me shaking right now because somebody had Parkinson's disease, that's around me, a male. So that's why I'm doing that with my hand. So just let you know that at home, that I'm getting a horizon. And it's really wonderful because sometimes you just like to, learn and stuff like that. And what's really wonderful when they share the memories with me, I love when they do that because it's more the happier times. So go celebrate and know that your loved ones are there with you when you're celebrating. And like I said, like with my friend's mom, my friend came in so strong, but she wanted her to enjoy her day and, go out and have some fun. There was something wrong with her eyes, that's why it's coming in like this, so I have to leave it alone. And with the celebrations coming up too, with graduations and Father's Day and everything, please don't drink and drive. If you have a little one too many, give your keys to somebody. So or get an Uber, or if you have one too many before you hurt yourself and somebody else in the process. We all need a little reminder. I know I said it at my last show, but it's at that time of the year, as you guys know at home. And me, I just never know who's gonna show up. And I actually said to my friend, can you take your people with you when she went away? So it was quiet until she came back home for a little while. I said, oh, that was nice while it lasted. Yeah, he had like haircut, like a pixie haircut, but then it was blonde. And then he had it on the side, and it's coming in like this because he's showing me the different stages of how, when he was young, going through the process with everything, and I'll tell you that in a second. But that's why it's coming in like this, because then it got parted on the side, and it was light blonde. He had blue eyes. Actually, a little bit on the shorter side, actually. He was like 5'4", and things like that, but fun-loving energy. Sometimes when I do a reading for somebody, especially when I have 2 or 3 people coming in, I know it's a lot of information, like I say, but when I have 2 or 3 people coming in, can be very interesting because everybody has their own personalities. I just recently did something for somebody, but one personality was coming through, then the other person's personality was coming through, and then the third person's energy was coming through. So I'm trying to deliver the message and you guys got to sort yourselves out. You just got to let me, deliver the message to the person that was getting the reading. But somebody I knew was open to all this stuff. She knew exactly what was going on and stuff like that. So that can happen too during a reading. Like sometimes I just get a whole lot of people that are coming in at once. And that's what I say, that's what you hear me say, you gotta back off and wait your turn. And that's why you hear me say that. This is all going squish over to the side. And I'm gonna put her up so that way you guys can see her at home. She had very long hair, so I had to go down like that with her hair. But she loved to wear it like swishing. The style today with some of them that just put it all over to the one side. I'm not good at doing that, but that's why I'm doing that like that, so that way. And I also have a person around me. They had Down syndrome when he died, and he just wanted to let his family know that I am fine. And fun-loving when he was here, very fun-loving. And I love when they do that with their energy. Thin lips. Very narrow in the chin. Let's just try to expect. I've got to hold her up to the camera just so you guys can see. I know you can, so. But those are things I just wanted to share, because people do ask me again, they still want to know more about, like, when you get ready to die, is it okay if I'm not there? It's definitely okay. Just so you don't feel the burden yourself of not being there when the person crosses or passes away. And she had some kind of cancer wrong with her, so that's why she's coming in like this on the paper, just to let you know that. And I'm feeling like there's a Jane connection with her on the other side, with the person that's on the paper that she's with on the other side. So if anybody can understand, feel free to call. She liked the earrings too, so I'm going to put some earrings on her. She said they were gaudy, like she liked going out to have her fun with her friends and just get ready for a night on the town. These were old-fashioned clip-ons, though. And if you're feeling sad about losing your loved one or not having your loved one around, especially with Father's Day and graduations coming up, it's okay, you know, and they're there with you. And you might feel somebody or see someone, and they're just reassuring you that I'm okay, like the little girl that came to me the other night out of the clear blue. Because I said to Michelle, was that you? And she said, Mommy, I was in my room listening to my music. I said, okay. And I said to her, I know what's going on. Somebody just wants to let their mom know that they're okay, and that the mom needed comforting to hear that. So I just wanted to put her out there. I didn't really see her or anything like that. But I just needed to put that out there too, because the mom wanted to know if she was okay. And here she is. And look for the schedule for my next live show. So if you guys want to, you know, reading, feel free to call. You know, if you want to know anything about mediumship or share your experiences with me, feel free. And also, just to let you know, just to fill you in on what's up with the other side in the spirit world, you know, our loved ones are learning and growing every time on the other side. So I feel very honored and very blessed that you guys welcome me into your homes to let me share your loved ones with you. And I said to myself, I go, I'm going to tell one story before I get off with dreaming. Sometimes, you know, dreaming, like my sister used to always come around, you know, to let me know that something was up with something. Sure enough, I would get a phone call that somebody passed away. Dreams are real, but I talked that out with you guys a lot of times, so. But I'm hoping that you learned something tonight, too, with everything that I talked to you about. One of my favorite senses with the smelling part of it, you know, with the gifts. One time I was smelling hot dogs, believe it or not, and I said, this is too strange, but I knew who it was for. And I said, they miss a good hot dog on the other side, and it only tastes better over there because you don't have to worry about, we're cooking or something on the grill. But I said, that was a different thing I smelled, because I'm just mostly used to smelling, like roses or perfumes and that stuff, not usually a hot dog. But that was kind of a fun experience that I had with that. But I had to let you know, if you're not there, it's okay. When somebody you love one getting ready to cross over. And you seniors out there, congrats about graduating, and dads out there on this side of the veil and on the other side. You can celebrate, and I, want to wish everybody and my late father a happy Father's Day. Miss you very much. I'm human, like I said earlier, like everybody else, and stuff like that, because his birthday is coming up too, but we're going to go out and celebrate his birthday and stuff like that. So, just to let you know that, and appreciate each other, because you really don't know when something's going to happen, and give your loved one that extra hug, because you just never know these days when something's going to happen. I have this drawing with me, so if anybody does recognize her or understand anybody that came through, feel free to call the station. I'd like to say hi to Miss Michelle, and hi to my friends, and thank my crew and everybody down Plymouth too for their support and help, and you guys here in Quincy. And it's funny because somebody said, well, what are you going to talk about tonight? I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out, because I am a writer, and us writers, we never run out of words. So I said, I just go and educate and share my experiences, and that's what my show is really all about, is educating you guys and sharing my experiences I've had along the way with everybody. I want to thank my crew. Thanks, guys, for coming in. And I want to thank my friends for their support with my spiritual journey too. Thank you very much. I do have some friends that are camera shy, and I chuckle at them, because I said to myself, that's okay if you don't want to come on, but feel free to come on if you ever want to come on a future show and stuff like that. And when you're out celebrating, like I said, celebrate wisely, but have a lot of fun. And remember that our loved ones are gone, but not forgotten, and just a thought away. And they're sending lots of love. And on the other side, they're constantly learning and growing too, as they trans from this life, from the physical life to the spiritual life. But when it's your time to go, and stuff like that. And any thoughts of suicide, there is help out there that you can get. So, you're not alone there. Just to let you know that. And I know sometimes people get sad and miss people or whatever you're going through, but there is help out there. I'm not a counselor or a doctor, but there is help you can get. And I hope everybody has a safe and happy Father's Day and graduation too. And it's a big deal, and stuff like that. So just to say that too. And it's just so funny about, I just never know too when deceased loved ones are going to show up. And they always have a lot to say. And I said, and sometimes with the deceased loved ones, they can get personal with me. So if you ever get a reading, you say, don't want to hear from somebody that's coming through, say, Karen, I'll understand. And that's quite all right with me too. But I hope, till next time, I love, and give that somebody that extra big hug, tonight when you get home. And, and appreciate each other, because if you guys know about everything that's going on in the world today, and lots of love and light. Our loved ones are gone but not forgotten, and just a thought away. Sending lots of love and light from the other side. I know sometimes it's not always like that, but that's okay too. And just to let you know that.